While retailers have been struggling lately, Woolworths this week produced a pretty solid 6% increase in half-yearly earnings. The $1.2 billion profit comes at a time when consumers are tightening their belts or heading online. And Woolworths' major competitor in the supermarket game, Coles, is getting its act together in a big way. However, the strength of Woolies' food and liquor division papered over a slump in business at the more discretionary Big W and Dick Smith electronics stores. I spoke to Woolies' boss, Michael Luscombe, just after he posted the results. Well, Michael Luscombe, you had a pretty easy time of it when Coles lost the plot, but now Coles has found the plot and has got new management. Does that mean that your shareholders will have to make do with lower profit growth because you have to fight Coles on price?
Well, today we actually were very clear and said that our long-term targets that we set for ourselves, that's sales in the upper single digits, assisted by bolt-on acquisitions and our corresponding EBIT growth, remain unchanged. This is a long-term game. This is like playing the Ashes, not just for 5 games, but for many, many games. And over the last 5 years in particular, we've really built up a substantial business, circa $30 billion to $50 billion, or in excess of that this year. And the bigger you get, obviously, the harder those incremental targets get. But we haven't changed our internal targets. And whilst this past half has been pretty challenging, particularly for discretionary retailers, we're not changing our aims for the future. That's just not the way of Woolworths. Yeah,
but Coles is really coming after you. I mean, they're just not going to let you increase prices in the way that you've been used to.
Well, the one thing I will say is that we were the first to drop prices. In fact, we dropped 5,000 prices some time back. We led with meat prices, with vitamin prices, etc. What I do know is that through our price checks, we actually maintain our price leadership in that position. So anyone dropping prices has to actually get to our place in the first place. And the second thing is that we continually track price perception across the market, and we've maintained a leadership in price perception as well.
Well, for what it's worth, that's really not my perception, and I think the wider perception is that Coles is getting some momentum, particularly in price, and particularly after that big milk discount thing.
Once again, we do lots of research focus groups after various advertising programs, and what I can tell you is that our basket program had great cut-through. In fact, it had the best cut-through of any of the ads that are in the marketplace, because it actually said across all of your basket you're going to get a great deal. There's been some confusion about some other ads as to whether they're about one product or against many products, but clearly what we do know is that from our market research and our actual price checks that we're actually out there, and we actually have maintained both price leadership, and we've actually also maintained our price perception scores. What's been interesting has been the closing gap between the major supermarkets and the discounters in terms of price perception. So that's narrowed dramatically over the last year or so.
Do you accept that it's now game on?
Oh, it's been game on for the last 80 years. Coles is obviously older than Woolies. We're 87 years old. They're a little bit older than that. It's been game on ever since we both opened a store in the same town.
Yes, but more so now than in recent years, perhaps?
I've been around retailing for 30 years, and things are always either a little bit quiet or they get a little bit noisy. At the moment, we've got a bit of noise happening, and I enjoy the noise because it makes life a lot more interesting.
Well, in that context, there was actually quite an interesting statement from the chairman, James Strong, on Friday, basically confirming that succession planning for the CEO position is underway. So what about you personally? Are you up for it? Are you up for the challenge for the next few years?
I've always been up for the battle. What the chairman did was today, there's been quite a bit of interest amongst some print journalists, comment upon comment on comment, and he just wanted to just set the record straight.
Yeah, but can you tell us?
I'm not going to, the process is really clear that at the appropriate time, whenever that may be, the chairperson of the day of that company does it through the appropriate channels.
Right, but are you prepared to clearly state publicly what your intentions are?
I've said all I want to say, and I really enjoy this speculation on my career, and I'm not sure whether people want me to go or want me to stay, but it's been interesting and fun to watch. But I haven't hung up the the boots yet.
Okay, so it was interesting in the profit statement that online sales at Woolworths are up 75%, obviously from a low base. Now, your big strategy over the next 5 years is to build 150 big stores with Lowe's, home improvement stores. Do you feel like you're going in the wrong direction? If everything's moving online, you're out there building stores.
Look, I think you'll find that we'll have a multi-channel offer in that area as well. So I think quite often people get a little bit confused about the way the world's moving. It's actually not moving purely online. It's actually moving multi-channel. Basically, if you've got a good, strong brand, having a physical presence, but also having an in-home offering and having an online offering and mixing and matching those. That's where we're heading with all of our businesses. And in home improvement, you'll see that we'll pretty much have that same offer.
Well, OK, we've talked about Coles coming at you with discounting, and we've talked about online shopping. What do you think are the challenges facing Woolworths over the next few years? Just
make sure we play our own game and don't get carried away with overreacting too much, because we've built a very solid base. We've got a very strong business. We've got a very strong team. We've got a marvellous and growing customer base. We've got extensions into online. We've got extensions through acquisitions, and Seller Masters is a good example of how we've moved into another channel today. And it's about understanding, particularly through our frequent shopper programs, what it is the customers really want. I notice you don't mention Aldi and Costco, the real big discounters. They're a bit of a challenge, aren't they? Well, clearly, to date, we've seen the demise of what were the two big discounters in our market, in Bilo, and before that Franklin's, and both of those owned that territory in the past. And there's been pretty much a little bit of a swap in the share there. What we've seen around the world, other than in Germany, let's take the UK as a good example, that combined all the discounters there were circa 9 to 10% of the market, but we've just seen one of them actually pack up and sell out to Asda in particular. So I think there'll always be an opportunity for people that want a very shortened and abbreviated range, that are not interested in buying branded products and are interested in packing their own bags and standing in long queues and maybe getting a little bit extra out of the tape at the end. But there are many that just say that actually I like the excitement of having brands and having choice, and I like the fact that someone packs them a bag for me and I get a bag, etc., etc., etc. So there'll be a place for both of us. And can you tell us the purpose of the acquisition of Seller Masters that you announced on Friday, which obviously is, among other things, a bottler of wine? I mean, there's a huge glut of wine in Australia at the moment. Surely you don't need to buy a bottle. You can buy it. You can get wine anywhere. Oh, and we can. But what they do have is a very strong and growing business in direct-to-home through their various wine clubs, and they actually sell brands that are not available on the retail marketplace. It was interesting talking to a young journalist earlier today, and he's a member of Seller Masters, and he waxed lyrical about the brands that he's only able to buy at Seller Masters and some of the deals that they have. And if you get a bigger share of the journalistic market, you'll be made. Including you. Thanks for joining us, Michael Luscombe. Pleasure, Alan.